got to tell me that I caused it. You ain't got to tell me that it's my fault. I already know that. Would you look at your neighbor crazy and say, I already know what the problem is. But today I'm moving beyond my mess. I'm moving beyond my mess. And I know there's some correlation here. David's going through a lot. He's going through the persecution by Saul. David is going by the rebellion of his own son, Absalom, and later in his life. And David is affected again by his personal sin. And so David is getting it every way. He's getting it outside of the house. He's getting it inside the house. And he's getting it within him. He's dealing with a whole lot of stuff. But tell somebody, Lord, I just want to move on. I just want to move on. Well, how do I move on? The first thing, Rachel, I got to do is recognize the reality of my situation. I got to look at the reality of my situation. David begins with a profound awareness of his situation in verse 1. He says, listen here, I realize what a problem is. And Mama said it like this, you can't fix it till you face it, until you become honest with yourself and say, I'm the problem. Can we do that together? I'm the problem. If I'm not all the problem, I'm at least part of the problem. Can I get a witness up in here? And when you begin to tell yourself honestly that you are part of the problem, you can begin to move forward and to do the things that God has called you to do. And so David says, I have to perceive the predicament that I'm in by expressing my deep distress. And in my deep distress, I had to realize that I am the problem. Verse 1 says this, I waited and I waited and I waited for God. And sometimes it ain't that you waiting on God, that God is sometimes waiting on you. Oh my God, has anybody ever prayed up in here and you wonder why God wasn't moving? It's because God was waiting on you. He was waiting on you. I'm excited, beloved, because God was waiting on me. And when God began to wait on me, he began to move on my behalf when I began to move towards where God wanted me to be. And so, beloved, I'm excited because when I grasp the gravity of my situation, like David says that my situation becomes clearer when I understand that, yes, I'm a part of the problem, and I know that God is a part of the solution. Good God Almighty. That I know that I'm a part of the problem, but God is a part of my solution. And he understood, listen, that the reality is I'm unworthy. Even though I've caused it, God, you don't really have to move on my behalf, but I wish you would. I know, God, that I put myself in the same position, this position that I'm in, but God, you are so great and merciful that you move even when I mess up. See, y'all get y'all chance to shout that God moves even when we mess up. Man, I get excited. He does this self-assessment. Are you doing the self-assessment right now? That David says, trouble surround me, too many for me to count, verse 12, and he begins to admit the fact that the number of problems are bigger than him. And so what David is really saying is that, God, when I'm overwhelmed, lead me to the rock, which is you, and that I might be able to overcome everything that I'm dealing with in my life. This talk about us when we're vulnerable, but God strengthens us when we're vulnerable. That's why Paul said, in my weakness, that's when the Lord is strong. Anybody glad that God didn't exploit your vulnerability and tell the world, hey, look at them, they messed up, because God already knows that all of us like sheep have gone astray at one time or another. And so tell somebody, I ain't the only one. All of us have messed up. So this is what David does. That when he's dealing with revealing the reality, David confesses the condition of his life. I'm messed up. Have you ever said that? I'm messed up. Not that I've messed up, but now it's the context of my situation in my life. I'm messed up. You messed up. Now you really messed up. So this is what David does. He confesses his condition, and he says in verse 13, please, God, come quickly. See, you ain't really messed up. You ain't really messed up until you say, please God, come quickly. I need to talk. Can I just get 3 people in the room and say, Pastor, you talking to me today that you've been to a place in your life where you didn't need God to take his time like he did with Mary and Martha and Lazarus. You said, God, I need you to come quickly.
Please, Lord. Yes.
Come quickly.
Yes.
But if that wasn't enough, he says, don't take your eye off on me. Because I can't even be safe with myself.
Come on. Say that. Say that.
See, some of y'all ain't admit that deep. That when you say, God, I need you to monitor every move I make. Because ain't no telling what I might do in the situation that I'm in right now. God, I need you to come quickly, and I don't need you to take your eye. It's right here in the text. Oh my God, I don't know about you. You may not have said it in them words, but you said, Lord, now I lay me down to sleep. Lord, I pray my soul to keep, because if I act the fool before I wake, Lord, I pray my soul. Good God Almighty. Y'all don't want to talk back to me, because your slumber may not be a night-like position. Your slumber might be outside of the will of God. And whenever we outside of the will of God, we are liable to do anything. I just wish I could talk to somebody. Get their mind being real right now. Because until you at a place like the prodigal son at the hog pen, you don't realize what a mess looks like when you are liable to do anything. See, y'all acting too cute. Because you don't want nobody to know your business. But sometimes life can put you in a position where you're liable to do anything. Good God Almighty. And so it says, Lord, whatever you do, I know your hand on me, but don't take your eyes off me. Good God Almighty. Because there's something about when you believe that the eyes of God are on you, you start thinking, it can't get no worse than where it is. Y'all don't want to talk back to me. He's not just talking about his guilt. He's talking about his dependence. Because you know you messed up. But you know he'll still help if you call him. Good God Almighty. See? He'll still answer. See, let me say that one more time. He'll still answer. See? Can I talk to two of y'all in the back? He'll still answer. Even though you messed up, you tore up from the flow up, that God will still, he'll still answer. Really what he's at a turning point. Because he don't care what everybody else sees. He's concerned about what God sees. And can I tell somebody that God is watching you climb out the mess you made? That God is watching you climb out a situation that you created for yourself, but he still loves you enough that he's watching you. You know what I'm saying? I used to think my grandmama used to have eyes in the back of her head. You understand what I'm saying? Because she would keep us during the day. And I would hear somebody come in the house and they say, well, what cabinet them at? I know where they are. I got them. I was like, how'd she know? You know what I'm saying? She could hear certain things and she would yell from the other room, put that down. How'd she know? And she would be, I'd be somewhere else. And she said, I know you've been. I said, what in the world? Who is this woman? And if grandmama got that kind of power, oh God, what kind of power do you believe that God has who sets up high and looks down low? I've been watching this new show called Your Honor, and one of the opening phrases that it says in the trailer, he's asking this cop, because this cop is accusing this woman of something she didn't do, and he goes to the place and he asks this cop, how can you see around the corner? He said, do you have to see around the corner eyes? And I started getting excited, Because maybe the cop don't have see around the corner eyes, but I got a God who has see around the corner eyes, who's able. And so David says, listen, Lord, I tried everybody else. God, I thought other folk were going to help me, but I know you're the only one that can help me. So what he said, I'm really acknowledging my inadequacy at this time, God. Well, if you don't believe me, look at what verse 14 says. Let those who seek you have joyful and glad hearts. And what he's really doing, his plea is reflecting and understanding that his struggles have not only impacted him, but also others. He's saying, I need a cheering section now. Y'all don't want to talk back to me. Will you tell your neighbor, say, I'm your cheering section. I'm going through, but I'm rooting for you too. I'm struggling, but I'm your cheering section. I know you thought you were by yourself. I know you thought you were dealing with it. And so David has this moment of humility that he's not in it by himself, but he begins to voice his need, and he begins to express his need for others to rejoice and serve as a public acknowledgement that his struggle is not going to be his final position. Good God Almighty. Will you tell somebody this struggle is not your final position? That's the wrong somebody. Tell somebody else that this struggle is not your final position. And sometimes while you're in the mess, you just need the saints that have been through and going through to tell you it ain't over, David. It ain't over, James. It ain't over, Rachel. It ain't over, Carl. It ain't over, Regina. It ain't over, Sam. It ain't over, Juanita. Whoever in the room. It ain't over because I'm cheering you on. Oh my God, I'm about to get excited up in here. Because this is what God does. God does. And there's a resolving of the reversal, that God begins to reverse some